The White House continues to spend time and money campaigning for higher taxes on the rich. Oy, so boring. I'm Allen Barton. Stand by for the front page.
Now I'm going to add an additional group. I'm going to call them the uber wealthy. The 400 highest earners in 2008, the year with the most recent data. On average, they earned $110 million a year. Just to put that number in perspective, that is 1,000 times more than our teacher and our cop. 1,000 times. That group, on average, they paid 18%. That's just a little bit more than our executive assistant. It's less than our teacher and our cop, and it's less than our doctor.
Liar. Big, fat liar, Mr. Cool Guy with your whiteboard, because that money has already been taxed. Okay, we'll get to it. Joining me in studio, Yaron Brook, president of the Ayn Rand Center for Individual Rights. Terry Jones, associate editor for Investors Business Daily. All right, Terry, other than this guy's painful delivery, hello, you can do more takes. You can smooth that out. You don't have to be so This is the White House. They're paying for this. Who pays for this, by the way? Who pays for these ads? I want to know if our tax dollars are paying for this guy and their cool two-camera shoot there to make it look like those financial advertisements that they do nowadays. Insurance, the style, they got it all down. But one of the tropes that you hear is like, way back in the 50s, there was a 90% tax bracket. And we had an economic boom. It was post-World War II. There was there was investment. Everybody was happy. Why don't we go back to that? What's the context there?
Yeah, well, there are two things. One is there was something of an economic boom starting in the late 40s, but it was interrupted by four recessions. So we had a lot of problems during that period.
I believe the rest of the world was in ruins as well. I think that might have had something to do with it contextually.
Pretty much Japan and Europe were flattened. So we were selling into, let's say, a non-competitive market.
Yeah.
This is part of the myth they want to propound, is that somehow you can have fabulously successful economy with high taxes, but as you noted, these supposedly lower taxes that the wealthy are paying are double taxed. So in fact, they're actually paying 40 and sometimes even higher than 40% marginal rate. But also, the tax breaks they do avail themselves of, namely the capital gains tax, is money put to work creating jobs. And isn't that something that people in government want? More jobs and more income? So you tax that income at a higher rate and you get fewer jobs. It seems to me to be pretty stupid policy.
Yaron, any thoughts here? First of all, did anyone ever pay this 90% tax bracket?
No.
I don't think a single person actually paid 90% on their income, because there were huge loopholes
many more loopholes, many more deductions, many more ways of getting around this. Almost never. But look, all of this is an artifact of the way we've got, the system structured. So, for example, I have I think it's a Corp S, right? I have a corporation which I do a lot of my consulting through, right? The consulting money flows into the Corp S, and then whatever profit that corporation has, I pay at my personal rate.
Yeah, flows into your personal return.
But if I had chosen to do it differently and set it up as a Corp C, that Corp C would have paid 35% taxes on the profits, then paid me on an after-tax basis a dividend, or maybe you can imagine a capital gains, and then I would have paid another personal income tax rate on that. So all it is the way in which the wealthy have their corporations set up. Most of them invest in Corp Cs. They invest in companies that are large and have dividends and have stock that's traded in it. But it's their money, and it's being taxed twice. Terry's absolutely right. It was taxed 35% at the corporate rate, and then it's taxed again at, 18% or whatever. So actually, that's over 50%. So it's a lie from beginning to end, and it's all you'd have to do to make this clear is equate the tax rates. Because if you equate the tax rates, then you don't have this incentive to shift from one entity to another entity and so on. And look, the idea that we want to go back to late 40s or 50s is ludicrous. The economy didn't grow that fast during the 50s. Terry's right, there were recessions. The world was in shambles. Our standard of living was a lot lower. And our tax code was much simpler. By the way, sales taxes almost didn't exist in the 1950s. State income taxes almost didn't exist.
Oh, the number of taxes, I mean, your communications tax, to open a bill, all the tax, I mean, the amount of taxation was way less, even though that one rate may have been higher.
The actual amount of taxes that each one of us as Americans paid was actually lower in the 50s than it is today.
BS is just totally contextless. All right, so this unctuous nonsense continues on whitehouse.gov. The website now has a Buffett Rule calculator. Can you believe this? I believe your tax dollars are paying for this. If, for example, you make $32,000 a year, paying $2,500 in federal income taxes, this stupid calculator tells you that at least 16,400 millionaires paid a lower effective tax rate than you in 2009.
Seriously? This is on whitehouse.gov?
Yeah, that's on whitehouse.gov, which I think they could. It's disgusting.
It should be called the envy calculator.
It is
has
disgusting.
Nothing to do with tax rates.
It's just the promotion of class envy. It's sickening.
Yeah.
Who cares that there's 16,000 more? There are all these rich people out there, and they're doing better than you at your expense.
But this is Obama's strategy. He can't run on the economy. He can't run on anything that he's actually done. So the idea here is to try to capture the so-called moral high ground. Yeah. And the moral high ground is this envy-driven class warfare, income inequality idea that somehow the rich are bad for being rich and virtue lies in being poor. Everybody wants to be rich.
What about the idea of the whitehouse.gov, White House, People's House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, being used essentially as an Obama re-election website?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and it cheapens both the White House and its website. But the thing that's bothersome to me is you just showed this little snippet that I had not seen of White House shill making the case. And even what he said there was a lie, because the people who earn over $1 million, these basically broadly are the top 1%, actually more than the top 1%, pay an effective tax rate of around 25%. That's according to IRS statistics. People in the middle class, 50 to 75,000, are paying about 13 or 14% effective tax rate. It's just not true that there are a bunch of wealthy people out there not paying anything, and those who do have a diminished tax rate have that not because they're cheating you, but because they've put their money to work on your behalf.
And then you're on over at barackobama.com, which is, I guess, would be the official website for his election. Another calculator where it compares your tax rate to Mitt Romney's. Ooh. Yep. So, I mean, I can't believe, we were talking before we went to air, underneath this is a contempt and a sort of, sinister is maybe too strong a word, but I'll use it. There's some sort of weird, dark, unappealing energy to all this that I can't believe that, whether you can make the arguments about tax policy and experts can make those arguments, there's something emotionally unappealing about this, and I can't believe that it's going to work. I have to think this is not going to work. What do you think?
It shouldn't work, and I think the only person who can help this work is Mitt Romney. That is, Mitt Romney should easily be able to diffuse this. This is an appeal, I think for the first time really in America to this extent. The only basis to elect Obama is that he is the anti-envy, he is the guy who's going to solve all these envy problems in the world. He's appealing to envy, it's the appeal to envy, and it's disgusting. And if the American people go for this, then America's in much worse shape than even I think it is in, right?
And that's saying a lot. Terry, I'll give you 10 seconds, last word.
Yeah, I mean, this is a terrible thing, and it illustrates perfectly what the game plan is here. It's to divide people based on class, to promote a whole bunch of useless programs that will benefit specific groups of voters and act to the detriment of others, and to demonize the opponent going into the election. You see all three of those at work there.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your own. And Terry, I'm Allen Barton, and you've been watching Front Page.